Hello, Juliet. How are you?
Great. Hi.
Okay, my name is Juliet. You can't see me, you can hear my voice. I am the co-founder of Emerging Equivalent, and today we are basically with Juliet Aigbe. She's going to introduce herself anyway. She's going to tell us more about herself. But the reason why we're here is to seek Afrocentric African solutions. And I've come to here in Juliet's bakery, basically to see what she's doing. And so we're going to get a little insight into what she's doing and how we can, she's going to tell us more anyway, but let me not give it away. So Juliet, if you want to introduce yourself, please.
Oh, you just put me on the spot right there. Hello, everyone. My name is Juliet Aigbe, Chef Juls, and the founder of Cake Flair and Domestic Grains Initiative, which is a agri-tech food processing company committed to market integration strategies, which means we're using locally grown grains or locally sourced materials, pretty much like controlling the source of the value chain of some of our domestic grains, so we can take the destiny of those grains and also improve the hierarchy of value assigned to those grains. Nigeria imports about 98% of her wheat consumption, which I feel is absurd and disturbing, considering the fact that we have a vast array of superfoods in form of grains that we can use to boost our breakfast staples and national staples. So I believe that bread has now left the humble budgets range because it's so expensive to get the grains, which we import from the Baltic region. So, but now we realize that we have to take back the destiny of our grains and bring it back to our tables. And so we're amplifying the narrative around domestic grains like millet, which is what I'm advocating for. We also have things like cassava, sorghum, soya beans, and a vast array, fonio, too many of them, which we are bringing back to kind of reformulate into our national staple, and then make sure that Nigerians and all the rest of Africa can begin to consume their own grown food items. So that's essentially what I'm advocating. I started as a baker. I bake cakes. I do luxury cakes, high-end, high-art cakes, and it was from the issue of the sinusoidal surge and rise and fall of wheat grain, the cost of wheat. Sometimes we shut down bakeries because we can no longer access these raw materials. Like, why are we so dependent on these imported grains? Why can't we find our own local grains that we can create composite mixes with? So long story short, I just said, you know what? Let me go back, to my childhood, and see how we all used to live, eat and the rest of it, and bring that into the confectionery space, and that's why I'm here today. Thank you.
Fantastic. A great introduction there by Juliet. Okay, Juliet right now is basically, she's advocating for millet. Okay, she uses millet to make a cake. You use them for cakes as well?
No.
Okay. Okay, tell us about the millet.
Okay, millet is a superfood, and I make what they call miracle bread. Well, from millets, I use millets as a composite trail mix in my bread composition, and it actually tastes fabulous. It has a nutty flavor, Nutty. I always try to spell it out. So when I say nutty, people think nutty. Okay. So I use millet to bake bread. Now I don't use millet to make cakes because I see cakes as a luxury item, and really, bread is like women and children, my target audience, people who might suffer malnutrition, not be able to afford the basic meals. Millet is a superfood that contains all the adequate required micronutrients. So if you put that in the regular everyday food, like bread, you are able to kind of reach more people. So let the high-end people stay with their cakes, and then we bring the millet into the basic foods. And over time, people might appreciate it in cakes, but I'm not pushing narrative for millet in cakes. I just do that strictly for breads, and also for bulk foods like our swallows. Because of the high nutrients content of millet, you can mix it with your elubo, with your lafun. It's fabulous. People in Ilorin are very familiar with it. They call it oka. They mix millet and guinea corn, which is also part of the grass family, or sorghum into lafun, and they mix it together. Because millet is proteinous, high in fiber, low in fats, it mixes very well with cassava, which is complex carbs, and so you have a balanced diet where you mix them together to make your raw food. So use millet for breads. Well, I invented it in confectionery mostly. I kind of amplified it more. Use it for boiled foods and use it for breakfast cereals, like things like your golden morn or cornflakes. I used to make cornflakes before. I mixed it with maize and sorghum to make cornflakes, and it's fabulous. So there are a lot of possibilities with millets. I used to make things like spaghetti, noodles. It just depends on how you're able to manipulate the ingredients to, work with your traditional, ingredients. So essentially, millet has amazing opportunity to explore different food options. It just depends on the creativity of whoever is using it to see how we can marry that into, your regular foods. And also, I want to say that because we conditioned with certain foods, we might frown at what's that? And I'm saying, see, it's all in the mind. And if you look at the benefits, that should be what informs your decision, not what's just really used to the kind of questions. So I want to start questioning our palates and now reintegrating, re-engineering our palates towards our own homegrown option so that we can, have the best of both worlds, if possible.
Perfect. Okay. In terms of the millet, because we're so used to basically the wheat in our breads and stuff like that, and that's basically we're all used to it. But like you've said, the millet is basically a lot more nutritionally friendly. It's healthy. It's a healthy option. So how can we obviously Juliet is trying to set up a kind of advocacy that's basically going to make millet a lot more mainstream, more acceptable to people. So my question to you is, how can we go about doing this? Because basically we need, instead of us relying on imported wheat, we have our own indigenous crops. Millet is one of them in Nigeria. So how can we? It's two-pronged questions. How do we advocate to make it more mainstream, and how do we stop the reliance on wheat to bake bread?
That's a very key question, very vital, very important question. We already have millet with us. So for me, I'm like, it's really amazing how the colonial construct boxes us in or has boxed us in to the point where we cannot see what we already have readily available. And I see millet as a low-hanging fruit strategy for us to begin to take back our identity. Now, how do we make millets mainstream? Simple, just eat millet. So I have this campaign going on, Eat Millet. As a matter of fact, I want to even commend India for what they've done. They sponsored last year's International Year of Millets with the food and I think FAO of the United Nations. They actually championed the cause of ensuring that millet comes back to our breakfast tables. And we in Nigeria too, we're also amplifying that narrative to say, look, millet is here to stay. It's an ancient grain. It's a superfood. It's high in antioxidant, micronutrients, antioxidants, fiber, protein. Like, so what is stopping us? So we can amplify and bring it back to tables if we start creating the campaign like I'm doing in my own little space. I want to make sure that Oladele hears about it, his friends, all our circle of our networks, they get to know about it. I also want to be able to share the recipes with other bakers as well and other food processors to incorporate millet into their foods. I want to go on a national campaign, state by state, bring other bakers together. We had the Bakers Hangouts 2 years ago. Even last year we had a mini one where we brought all the bakers together, give them the grains to bake with, so they can take back to their various bakeries. Essentially, if we have a milling company or a milling factory or a milling pub where we can begin to process the grains, we'll be able to provide the flours more readily available for other people to buy it. Because the average baker is busy. He or she cannot go back and now start processing the flour from scratch. So he wants to be able to like have access to it easily, readily available, and then also the farmers up north, because millet grows very well in the Savannah region of Nigeria, like Kini Savannah, Sudan Savannah, Sahel Savannah, from like Oyo and above to up north, you can get millet abundant. As a matter of fact, I think 2 years ago, 2022, Nigeria produced about 34 million metric tons of millet from just 4 states.
Wow.
4 states. Imagine if all the northern states.
That's huge.
It's huge, as opposed to just 4 million metric tons of wheat that was grown in 13 states of Nigeria. Wow. So why put money where, when we have a low-hanging fruit? So essentially, because we used to eating 100% based wheat-based bread, so we're just used to important. So when Russia had this issue with Ukraine, we saw the soaring of the price of wheat, and so because we depend on import from the Baltic region, it affected the price of wheat. So we no longer made bread a humble budget. So now we said, why can't we go back and eat what we already have? So for me, how to really amplify this is talk about it, bake it, show them how it's done, put it out there on social media, put it out there and do things like food tasting events, go for trade shows, go for exhibitions, and just talk to people around, and also engage governments. I've been doing that engagements with FIRO, with LASCODA, with different agencies. They're really enthused by the whole idea. I just want to see like more proactive action taking towards that enthusiasm beyond just talking about it. We want to be able to act, proactively towards ensuring that these grains are available. And also, I'm also talking to the farmers that see, when we start buying these grains, don't now put up the price and say because there's a high demand. Let's rather cultivate it, improve the agronomy, improve the seeds, and also help the farmers. If they have issues where they cannot grow it properly, show them best practices. It's not using herbicides that are, carcinogenic,